Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. My name's Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in shareyourstories.online. Today with me, I'd like to introduce you to Edita Atteck, who is an author, a coach, and a speaker. And Edita joined us in the guest blog series with her book, Awaken Your Inner Leader. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how business has changed since that time. And Edita joins us from Burlington, Ontario. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Trish, for having me. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Yes, it seems when I look back 2018, when the book was published, in 2021, I think it's like two different worlds.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes, so much so. So I don't even know where to start. I will try to make everything, long story, switch to a short one. Many changes in my business, because just before the pandemic started, not knowing anything is going to be happening this way, I completely switched my business focus from the general professional community and corporate executives to working very specifically with women CEOs and founders and entrepreneurs and women who are in charge of companies, because I felt based on my prior experience that was the place where I really wanted to focus. That was not just where my heart was, but that was something that I really felt was a deep need, because women have so much to juggle. Often when we have ambitions and we have great visions, but we also have families and we have other responsibilities, it sometimes ends up being too much. And the woman in the middle of all of that, all of those other things that are circling around us, it just gets to be a little bit too much chaotic, and it can sort of what would be the best word for that? Just take the, just weaken us, I guess, in a sense. So how can we really stay whole in the process and achieve so many things in a place and at a pace that is suitable for us?
Now, I know that you have a family.
Yes, I do.
How is that? I mean, you're a female executive, so I'm going to ask you the question. How have you found navigating this sort of chaos that we've all been dealing with in the world in the last year, and sort of aligning your own personal and professional goals and keeping all of those things, all those ducks in a row, juggling all those balls?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have always said this one thing, I am a mom first, I am a family person first, then I'm an entrepreneur. And I know, it's not for everyone that way. But interestingly, yesterday I was listening, or I was reading a little bit of a presentation from the CEO of Google, who said, we have all of these different balls to juggle, the family and the work, and he had some other ones. And the work ball that we juggle is a rubber one. It always bounces back, because it's going to come back to us day or night. But the many other things like family or health, they're made of glass. And when we don't catch them on time, they shatter. And then we have to rebuild them often. And that was such a beautiful metaphor for that. So I really focused a lot, especially during difficult times, you realize what really, really matters is your mental, your emotional health, your relationships, and how you contribute to the world. I know material things matter, but I think unless you have that base, solid health, nothing else is relevant. So we have definitely, dealt with sometimes isolation and loneliness, but because we have created practices and routines, and game nights and walks in the nature and everything else, I actually think that we have grown closer during this time. And my baby, she just went to university, which is hard to believe. And it was like literally a month and a half of dedicated time finding off-campus housing in the craze of the COVID situation. So I was so glad we had this flexibility. And, that's one of the things that working for yourself provides. It's a lot of risk, but it's also a lot of benefits and flexibility. So it all depends which lens you are looking at your life with, right?
So I'm going to ask you, now that things are somewhat normalizing, and we're all kind of, we've taken a look at our strategic plans, especially for fall, because I don't think that, September of this year has really sort of shone the light on the fact that we're now moving into a whole new realm of doing business. So in terms of your moving forward strategy, how have you found the female entrepreneurs that you work with Are you finding that they have a positive energy and outlook for the future, or are folks still a little bit skeptical and holding things close to the chest?
I think there's a lot that they hold on to, despite the fact that all of the women that I speak to, they want to have the optimistic energy, and they are, all are following motivational, videos. I mean, there's no shortage of these. Like wherever you
That's
look,
true.
everywhere is self-help.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I find many people, men and women, are still struggling inside because informationally we are overloaded.
yeah,
But unless, and this is my deep personal belief, unless we have an accountability partner, somebody who is pulling us up, somebody who is making us do the practices and really change our mindset, because we can't do it on our own. It's very difficult to
right.
see the label on the outside of the box when you're inside the box, no matter how smart, how
Yeah,
intelligent, how great we are. So I think that many women are still dealing with a lot, and still carrying a lot of burden on their shoulders, although there's a lot of outwardly optimistic talk. And and many of them are also struggling, of course, with business challenges, with cash
for
flow,
sure.
because this has been a really challenging year. So many
Yes.
are, postponing some of the investments in themselves and really find it challenging to invest. Some are really going ahead. So it really, really varies. But I really feel that this was a transitional year in which many women and men realized that we do need to invest in changing our identities. We need to become the new persona who can create that new thing we want. And I just don't really think we can be back wherever we were in 2018. We just need to keep climbing that spiral
Moving forward.
staircase of our growth.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in order to change systems, which many of us are talking, I know you are also a SHEO activator, where we believe in changing the world for better and creating new systems. I also believe we can't change systems unless we change our identities, the way of thinking. And this is a radical change we need to go through. So challenges are there. Some are more open to talk about it, some are less open to talk about it, but more
Mhm.
authentic and more true you are to yourself, you realize that there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
For sure. Now, in your book, Awaken Your Inner Leader, I know that, when we do the research and we compile all of this information and we share it in the form of a book, even though we've gone through these really challenging, chaotic times, there's still a lot of really relevant, solid material that's available in your book that you're still, I'm sure, we all pull back on we go back to the pages and say, yes, I remember that and that worked. And we'll modify it a little and it will work again. So, if there was one of the things that you could sort of take or glean from your book that folks could sort of look back to and go through the pages and say, yes, Edita was right. I can do this if I take a look at it in this way. What would be one of the things from your book that you think that is as relevant today as it was the day that you published it?
Um, Amazing question. And I would just say the practices. I will be super honest. I read my own book 2.5 years later, and I just said to myself, I'm going to read it like, I have never read it
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
And it's, amazing when we look at our own work, it feels like a different, something that, it's kind of like a grown child that has taken on
Right.
its own life.
Its own
And
right.
and I was reading and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is still so relevant. So one of the things I would say, to make the short answer to your question, is go through the practices, because there are so many reflections and so many practices. Now, pretty much most of the chapters have them. That those would be the most invaluable, because I don't care how intelligent and how knowledgeable we are going to become about many topics, unless we bring them into life every single moment, nothing is going to change. Because one of the laws, I think it's used in physics, any system left alone, if you're not putting in sufficient amount of regularly putting in sufficient amount of energy, leans towards chaos. So
Right.
even with the best intentions, the best way we are, if we are not continuously with effort and desire adding additional energy and changing our system, we are going to be leaning towards chaos.
Right.
And that I really would love for anybody, if there's one thing they want to take away from this discussion, remember that any system, including yourself, is going to be leaning towards chaos unless you're pouring in consistently the amount of energy and intention into your daily practice in your life.
So in terms of your own daily practice, I mean, we are what we preach, right? We have to, but we have to internalize and believe the things that we write in the written word and that we share in our books. So share with our viewing and listening audience one of the things that you do on a day as part of your daily practice that you feel really helps you with the resilience and the positive attitude in order to move into each day, looking at it through a new lens.
Yes, and there are so many things that I do. So I absolutely will share most of it that I can remember right now. So the big part of it, I never get out of my bed without really doing an intentional practice, connecting to my body, connecting to my breath. Then I pretty much almost instantaneously after that, I get up, I go and spend the time on the trampoline. I do some, what is it called? I can't remember the proper word for that, where you sort of work up your breath. You're almost out of breath and
For
you
sure,
release
your
it.
kinetic energy. Yeah.
Yes, and I use an AccuBall for my feet to release some of the pressure from my feet. I do some weights. I have a very dedicated and diligent eating practice. So one of the things I have included, and I could not really write about it in the book because the book originally was, the idea was to have it an ebook, and then it became a book, and I just thought I can't put more things into it. But one
Right.
of the big things is really how we eat, how we
Right.
sleep. So the diet is incredibly disciplined in my life, because one of the things I have embraced, especially in the world of COVID, is cellular and metabolic health. And that combined with a nervous system practice, it just makes a world of a difference. So the way I eat, when I eat, what I eat, I have very dedicated practice in terms of when it comes to sleep, how I use circadian rhythm to my advantage. So I don't stay up late at night and I don't sleep in the morning, which is because it's an extra day that I can sleep in. And all of those things, I can honestly tell you that I have as much energy than when I was young. I am the same weight as I was when I was at the end of the high school. We were just having that discussion with my husband. And these things don't come because of my wishful thinking. They come
Right.
because I diligently practice and I drive my family a little bit nuts at the same time to do the same.
Well, one of the really important things that I think we all forget as we age and we get into this, hectic lifestyles that we certainly had pre-COVID, was that we don't pay enough attention to our diet. So I totally agree with you. What we put and what we nourish our bodies with has a tremendous effect on our mental and physical capabilities. And as we age, that just becomes more and more prevalent. So that's a really wonderful tip for all of our viewing and listening audience, that, we have to be kind to ourselves, right? And if we're not kind to ourselves with food and positive energy, then how can we possibly be a positive force when we're out there in the world interacting with each other? So that's really a wonderful takeaway. And I thank you very much for sharing that with us, Edita. That's really wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, ultimately, we are a collection of trillions of cells, and we are going to
Right.
be only as positive and as healthy as the health of our cells.
Right. That's very true. Now, one of the things that we do in the guest blog is we talk about 3 words of advice. Now, I know that your 3 words of advice are, I'm sure, as relevant now as they were when you shared them with us in 2019. So create, nurture, and practice are your 3 words. Tell us how relevant they are to you now today.
Ultimately relevant, and I could take every one of these words in so many different directions. Create your future identity. That's what you absolutely must work on. Create your metabolic health. COVID taught us that we are basically a condominium for viruses and bacteria. Unless we create this balance inside ourselves and symbiotic relationship, we're losing. The next one is nurture. Nurture who you want to be. This is not something you do once. And of course, practice goes hand in hand, because unless you practice, nothing is going to change. It's going to be a wishful thinking.
That's very true. I really want to thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning, because I find that our conversation has really invigorated me and inspired me to really revisit my own daily practices and maybe tweak them a little bit as we move into the fall season. So thank you so much for spending some time with us, Edita. And I certainly wish you and all of your clients all the best as we continue to try to navigate our current circumstances in business and in life.
Thank you so much, Trish, and same to you, your family, and your clients.
Thank you so much. To our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us today as we introduce you to the person behind the logo in another edition of Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. And if you would like to share your story in our marketing platform, please visit us at shareyourstories.online. We look forward to meeting you.